okay, which is related to say the steps that will be taken by a hacker to do, let's say, the next phase after doing gathering. Okay, we go to say to see what we can do, what is known as a port scanning. Okay, in order just for port scanning, it's just to, let's say, to identify the different types of tools that can be used to gather information. The first thing within, let's say, information gathering is to do port scanning. What are, let's say, the network
يا دكتور ما في صوت.
okay, that is running on that machine, and you do network mapping in order just to see how the networks looks like in your target machine. Okay, the first thing which is known about determining the network range. Okay, when I talk about the network range is with regard to the IP addresses used by your target. Okay, now if you know, for instance, the IP addresses used by your target, you will focus on those IP addresses. Okay, to see, for instance, when you do port scanning, you will do port scanning on some specific IP addresses. You will focus your port scanning on those specific IP addresses instead of doing scanning or port scanning in the whole network range, as we mentioned previous chapter. You're going to do scanning on, let's say, class A, class B, class C network. You know the IP address used by XYZ target. Okay, you will focus on those, let's say, limited IP addresses, or that range of IP addresses that you will use to go and scan each machine within that range. Okay, because if you don't know the network range and you don't have such information, okay, you will waste your time. You will, it's like you will do scanning randomly because you don't have such information. Okay, and you might be, for instance, sometimes when you do port scanning, you might be detected by, let's say, the defense devices that are located in your target. So it is very important to know first the network range in order to do a proper and accurate port scanning. Okay, now in terms of how we can identify active machines, there are many ways to discover whether which machine is alive, which machine is on, or it is active within your target. Okay, we do have what is known as a word dialing. We do have word driving and related activities to the word driving approach. We have pinging, and we do have port scanning. These are, let's say, some approach, okay, or approaches that you can use to gather or to know the information about the active machines. Okay, you are not going to waste your time to attack a machine or an IP address belonging to a machine that is not active, that is down. Okay, for instance, if you discover that your target has, for instance, let's say 50 IPs, okay, that means each IP corresponds to a specific machine. Now, among those 50, okay, you are not going to waste your time to attack, let's say, machines that are off. So now, by identifying the active machines, you will focus, you will just do filtering. Among those 50 machines, you will say that there are 20 machines are on, or one machine is on, it is alive. So I will focus my attack on that machine instead of trying to, I will attack this machine and I will find it is down, and I will wait, for instance, and I will have to do the second attack on the second machine or second IP address and wait to see the result. And sometimes the result will take time. Okay, so by knowing the active machine, you directly get to your objective, to those active machines, and you try to penetrate and attack those machines. So it is very important to know and identify the active machines. Now, some techniques that are used to verify or to get the information about the active machines. We do have what is known as a word dialing. This is an old way, which is known as legacy techniques, that is based on randomly. For instance, if you know, sometimes they do have those machines related. There are, let me see if we can. Okay, sometimes you do have the machines that are related to some modem. Okay, and does anyone know what is a modem, Shabab?
Sorry, Doctor,
what is a modem? We talk about old modem, Shabab. What is a modem?
It's like a router.
Not that modem. No, not that one. Let's say an old modem. Let's say the real modem, which is like the NIC. You know the NIC, the network card. Okay, when you have your network card on the back of your let's say computer. Okay, you can also install a modem card. The modem card used to be plugged, okay, with the cable. It will link your PC to your telephone line, landline. You will have the plug for the landline. Okay, you will plug that modem, or attach a cable to the modem that is connected to your PC. Okay, like a module. Okay, you insert it like you have a slot. Okay, you just insert. You go to the market. You buy a modem, which is like a card, like a PCI card or network card, and you plug it on your motherboard, and it will have, let's say, a connection or a port, which is, let's say, usually it is an RJ45 port. Okay, and you plug your cable to, let's say, to the wall, to the telephone socket on the wall. Okay, and this is the way it used to connect to the internet, let's say 10 years ago. Okay, 10, 20, 10, 15 years ago. Okay, there was no Wi-Fi, and this was the only way to connect to the internet. Okay, you have modem, you install your modem on your computer, you plug your modem to the socket of your landline, and you dial a number from, there will be let's say an application where you do have some services. Let's say you have you purchase, I remember, let's say 17 years ago, you have to purchase a card, like a telephone card. You scratch it, okay, and you have the number that you have to dial. You will dial a number from your computer. That your computer will be turned like a telephone landline, okay, and you will be connected to the company or the service provider, the internet service provider. It will ask you for to enter, let's say, password, or let's say the number, okay, and so you bought your card, for instance, for a 10 minutes connection, so it will be identified, and you will have internet connection for 10 minutes, for instance, or 20 minutes, whatever. It's like you buy, let's say you refill your mobile phone. Okay, the same way. So this is the attack on those modem. The attacker at that time, what they will do, they know, for instance, that this area is using XYZ, let's say, number or phone number that will start with, let's say consider as 246. Okay, and they know that the number is 8 digits, for instance. So they will randomly start by dialing randomly, okay, a list of numbers that are generated randomly, and if by chance there is a modem listening to the communication, okay, so it will respond, it will open a connection, and that was, let's say, a door from an outsider to get inside your computer through that modem. This type of attack is known as a word dialing. Okay, Shabab? And of course, now the modem doesn't exist, let's say, in modern computers, but why we are mentioning these techniques, you might find, let's say, within an organization, they might have some old computers, believe me, and they do exist. Some old computers that have a modem on them, and they are connected to the landline. And they forget, people are forgetting that they need to, let's say, to change them and so on. So because of that, you can, let's say, use these types of old technique. Word driving. Anyone say about word driving? Anyone has an idea? This is related to the wireless. Okay, if you do have someone who is sitting outside PSU campus, okay, and he wants to gather information about the network, okay, that does exist within PSU campus, and he doesn't have a physical access to the PSU campus. What he will do, he will try to have, let's say, his PC with an antenna with the proper application, and he will just let's say walk around and or drive around, usually by car. They do have their car, and they will drive slowly around PSU campus, and whenever they can, their application will pick up a wireless signal, so they can know that at this location we are connected, or we can pick up an access point or wireless signal. That means PSU are using, for instance, wireless network, and he will, for instance, drive and determine, let's say, which location, which place he can discover the existence of, let's say, an access point, what type of, let's say, a signal, whether the signal is, let's say, a good signal or high signal or low signal. So at least he can know which appropriate place, okay, he can catch a high, let's say, or good signal or good wireless signal, so he can launch his attack wirelessly to try to access that access point, and by accessing the access point, he can go and access, for instance, the PCs that are connected wirelessly to that access point. Okay, so this is what is known as a word driving. You can find another, let's say, type of word driving, which is, let's say, word walking, word jogging, biking, word flying. All those are techniques. For instance, you are walking with your small device, okay, with antenna, and instead of driving by car, you are walking instead, or jogging, doing jogging, or for instance, you are using your bike with your small PC with antenna, and you try to go around the PSU campus and try to detect the access point, or you are using, let's say, a small flight, okay, that will go up to the PSU campus and try to detect whether there are access points, or at all if the PSU is using wireless communication or wireless network. So this is what is known as a word driving. Is that clear, Shabab?
Yes.
Okay. Tools that are used, whether you are as a hacker to gain or to deduct or to get information about wireless network as a hacker, or as a defender, you will use the same techniques. You will use, let's say, sometimes the same tools. Okay, there are many applications, okay, that can be used by a hacker and the defender at the same time. Some applications are used to crack, for instance, wireless access points. Some of them can be used to detect whether someone is trying to access your access point, to access your wireless network, and so on. These are, let's say, some of those applications that can be used by a security guy to defend against word driving. Okay. The other technique that will help you to detect whether you do have a live machine, the machine that is on or down, you are, let's say, the small thing, or let's say the basic command line interface, which is pinging. Okay, by knowing, let's say, the range of IP addresses that does exist, that you do have, you gathered through the reconnaissance phase we have covered in the previous chapter. Okay, now you know the range of IP addresses used within your target. What you will do, basic thing is to do pinging. Okay, I will ping the first IP address and see if I got a reply. Ping the second one, ping the third one, and so on. Okay, so by using pinging, you are sending an ICMP message, which is a light message that will verify whether, okay, it will send 4 request, echo request, and you will get echo reply. Okay, if the machine is alive, you will get 4 echo reply message. Okay, that means you can identify which machines are alive. Also, you can get the data about the TTL. Okay, so you can know, for instance, how long does it take to get to XYZ machine, for instance, whether it is quicker, it is near you, for instance, or it is far away. So you can use pinging to get access to those machines. Another technique to gather to know which machine is alive or not is by using port scanning. Now, the idea about the port scanning is to discover, okay, the services running on a port. Usually, what is a port, Shabab?
It's an access point.
Not access point, Shabab. Port is not an access point.
To know which.
What is port? What is a port? A port. What is a port? Is it physical or logical?
Logical.
It is logical. Okay.
What an app uses to connect to other machines outside.
Before you go to the outside, so the port scan or the port that are used on your machine are used for which purpose?
To connect to
identify the type of network service.
The type of network service. We don't link it to the network. It is based on the service. Okay. If you have, for instance, within your, let's say, within your machine, you do have different applications. Okay, I do have different applications. I have, for instance, a Word application. I can have an Excel. I have a browser. Okay, I have an FTP application. Now, how does the operating system, okay, manage to differentiate between those different applications, whether it is while it is receiving messages or sending messages? Let's say you are receiving a message. Okay, now I have received a Word message. I have received an internet message. So how can I open that message? Which application is appropriate to receive or to take, let's say, in charge that received message? Here comes, let's say, the port in action. So you will have, for instance, for each application, you have a specific port number, which are a virtual one. It is a way of, let's say, managing the different messages, whether they are sent or received. For instance, if I receive an internet message, okay, I know that the internet message is used by, for instance, a browser, and the browser will listen to the port, or it is associated to port 80, for instance. If I receive telnet, I have a port 21, for instance, and so on. So each port will have, let's say, if you can see here, these are some common ports that are used. Okay, for instance, if you do have 23, it is a telnet. I do have 21, it is an FTP service. 80 is an HTTP service. 110 is POP3, and so on. Okay, and there are plenty of port. 65,000 shabab and something. I think 65,532 port that does exist within each machine. And there are some ports that are well-known ports that are commonly used by common applications, as there are some other ports that are, let's say, less frequently used port. Okay, and each port is used, or it is associated to some specific service using some specific protocol, whether TCP or UDP. Okay, because it differs. It depends of, let's say, whether it is TCP or UDP and the service appropriate. Now, when you do have a service, let's say I do have an HTTP service. When that HTTP application or service is listening to the port 80, because it is waiting for it is waiting to receive something in case It's like you are in standby. When you enable HTTP, always that HTTP will try to listen to the port 80. So when you do ping, for instance, or when you try to verify, what is meant by an open port? Open port, that means the service that is running on that port is ready to, it is listening to receive something. Okay, this is what is meant by an open port. Open port, that means the application associated with service associated with that port is listening. For instance, if you go to HTTP and you close HTTP, you disable the HTTP service on your computer. That means the port 80 will become closed. Okay, guys, this is the idea about open and closed port. Whenever you have a service on and enabled and it is listening to its associated port, when you try to discover whether that port is open and closed, you will find it as open. If it is closed, that means one reason is, for instance, that service is not running on that machine. Okay, that's why as a hacker, for instance, you will try to discover what are the different type of services that are running on that machine and whether they are on or off. They are listening on or not. Because by knowing, for instance, I do have HTTP version ABC, I know that HTTP has some vulnerabilities. Okay, so whenever now I verify whether that port is open, I will discover it is open. I will try to find out what is the version of the service running on that port. I do have ABC. I will search on the net what are the vulnerabilities associated with HTTP service version ABC. So you can exploit it and try to penetrate on that machine using that vulnerability and exploiting that vulnerability existing on that port related to XYZ service with version ABC, for instance. Is that clear, Shabab, for the port number and the port scanning? This is the idea about the port scanning. When you do port scanning, you try to verify whether the port is open or closed.
Yes.
Clear, Shabab? Naam, Shabab, clear?
Yes, clear.
Yes.
Sometimes what you get, sometimes what you get, Shabab, sometimes you get open port, sometimes you get closed port, and sometimes you get what is known as a filtered port. You don't have that open or closed. Filtered port. What is meant by filtered port? Means that there is a firewall preventing you from getting information about that port. If you receive, for instance, a message saying, or let's say as a result you got filtered port, that means probably there is a firewall preventing you from querying, if you want to say that, if you can say that, or probing the port to verify whether it is open or closed, because we didn't even get in touch with that port. Okay, Shabab? And also, when we talk about port scanning, that means now we are doing active or passive action, Shabab?
Active?
Active.
It's passive. I think
It is an active. That means the port you are sending directly your what are
Doctor, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Shabab?
Yes,
Hello?
yes.
Yes, doctor.
I do have a problem, connection problem, so I was just speaking to myself.
بس دكتور ما عندنا الباسف والاكتف
لا لانه كنت فاتح ايش اسمه الفي ام وير والماشينز كلهم، فاعتقد انه مسبب الديسكونكشن. anyway, so just go back. Can you see the screen or not now?
Screen
No,
No,
the screen is
doctor.
not present now. Sorry. Okay, I'll just share it. What about now, Shabab?
Yeah,
Yes.
now I can see.
Okay. طيب. So, did you hear my explanation about the flags or not, Shabab?
No, we stopped
No.
at active action.
Oh, yeah, we were on active and passive. We were talking about the port. Is it active or passive?
Ooh, that was a lot. Okay, so in port scanning, okay,
Yeah,
we
we
do
finished
have
this slide.
yes. Okay, so I think we stopped here. Okay, in port scanning techniques, we do have what is known in flags within each packet that is sent does have flags. Okay, and the flags are used to describe the status of the packet. Okay, based on the communication. For instance, let's have a look at this packet. Okay, this is the header for our packet, and what we'll have. Okay, you will have this flag. You have, for instance, urgent flag. You have ACK flag. You have push flag. You have RST flag, sign flag, FIN flag. Okay, this which show, let's say, the status of the packet. For instance, if you want to finish communication, okay, with you have communication between two devices, and one of the device wants to finish the communication. How the other one knows, let's say, what the first machine wants. Okay, so he will send a message, a packet, with this field FIN equals to 1, because when you, for instance, if you want to specify one of those flag, 1 or 0. If it is 1, that means your packet has this flag. Okay, 0, that means it doesn't have this flag. Okay, if I do want to have a combination of flags, for instance, let's say I want to have RST and ACK, which is acknowledgement and reset communication. Okay, I will put 0 here, 1 0 1 0 0. Okay, based on the flag bits assigned to that specific field, the other part will know what type of packet it is receiving, and it will know how to deal with such packet. Okay, Shabab, this is what is, let's say, the idea about the flag. Okay, and the flag, there are bits, so 1 or 0 that you put on the packet header, and they do have they provide you specific behavior. You know, when you receive, let's say, a packet, and you see that flag is set to 1 or 0. Okay, you can understand what type of communication, what is the behavior of the communication, whether the port is closed or open, or, for instance, there is someone who is preventing, or some device preventing you from accessing that machine or not. Okay, and it is very important for a hacker or as a pen tester to understand the flags within, let's say, a packet, because what you will do, for instance, you will craft the TCP packet. Craft, that means you are going to make your own packet. Okay, I will, for instance, I will send a specific packet with a specific flag just to test the behavior of my target machine. And based on the response I will get from my target machine, I will deduct whether, for instance, that machine has an open port or closed port, or whatever the information I want to get from that machine. Okay, so this is the idea about the flags. Okay, and these are the different flag. Okay, I mentioned. Okay, you will have you will have those flag. For instance, a sign is already you know the IC, you know the in three-way handshake. You remember, Shabab, three-way handshake communication?
Yes.
Okay, you will send a sign and you will receive what? Yes?
Sign acknowledge.
Send ACK, yes. Then you will reply with what?
Acknowledge.
Acknowledgement. Okay, this is the normal communication. Before you start sending any data, you have to go through this process. Okay, which is, let's say, a pre-establishment of communication. Okay, it's like when you talk to someone before you start. It's like when you pick up, you are using your landline. Okay, you have to pick up, let's say, your phone, dial the number, and wait until you listen to the tone. And when the other end will respond to you, okay, will pick up his phone on the other end, and he will say "Assalamu alaikum," for instance, so you can speak. So you did some steps before you can speak. You cannot just pick up your phone and start speaking. You need to establish communication. You need to open that channel before communicating anything. And the same way in networking, any devices or any two-end devices, before they start exchanging information, they need to make sure that the other end is ready and it is accepting to talk to me or to receive or exchange the communication. And this is, let's say, the objective of the three-way handshake. Okay, and you are going to send a sign. This is a flag. Okay, how does the other one knows that this is a sign packet? Okay, because of that flag. You go to the flag. Okay, you go to the sign. Okay, you put 1 and you 0 in the other one. So the other end, we know that this is a sign packet. The same way, this is an ACK packet. This is a final or a fine packet. Okay, which is to finish the communication. This is an RST, a reset packet. If you receive, for instance, an abnormal connection, you just reset the communication. You tell the other part, I want to reset the communication, because it is an abnormal communication. I have received a packet instead of, for instance, let's imagine that instead of receiving a sign in any normal communication, you should receive the sign before, sign packet. You received an ACK packet. So whenever you receive an ACK packet, you say this is not normal. I should receive sign packet before ACK. Okay, so when you receive that ACK packet, it is considered by you as an abnormal. So what how you are going to reply to that ACK packet by sending a packet that is known as an RST packet. You say, just reset the communication. I cannot start communication straight away by receiving ACK, which I didn't, let's say, I didn't do the first steps for the three-way handshake. So you will send an RST packet, which asks the other end to reset the communication, to start from 0. Okay, to reset it and start from normal one. I have to receive sign, and I will send you a sign ACK. Then I will expect to receive an ACK. But if I receive an ACK and without receiving a sign packet, that means it is an abnormal communication, which should be reset. Okay, we do have a push and urgent. Okay, push data is you are putting, let's say, when you receive, for instance, a mini packet or request from the different devices, you will put their, let's say, packet into queue. Okay, in the queue, so you will process them based on first come, first serve. But when a packet comes with a PSH flag, okay, that means instead of putting that packet at the end of the queue, you will put it in, let's say, on the head of the queue, because it's like you are pushing that packet to be on the beginning of the queue. We do have another type of packet that has a flag urgent, okay, bit set for instance as on. This will make, let's say, that means this packet has a priority to be, let's say, you don't have to make it in the queue. You have just to forward it and pass it to the destination, because it is an urgent packet. Okay, CWR, which is congestion window reduced flag. Here, when you do have congestion in networking, okay, during communication, and you want the other end to stop or to decrease the flow of all the number of the packets that are sent, you just send them a congestion window reduced flag to ask the other end to reduce, let's say, the number or the flow of data or packet that are sent. And this will work also with the ECN echo flag. Okay, it shows that if this flag is on, for instance, it means that you have the capability to control the congestion flow. Okay, do you remember the window size? Did you got information about the window size in the three-way handshake? Anyone, Shabab? Yes?
Yes.
What is the window size?
I think there is a window for each packet to arrive at.
Each packet to arrive. Anything else? More explanation? When we talk about congestion, the congestion is due to what in network?
Lot of traffic to the same destination, maybe.
Yes, a lot of traffic to the same destination. What is meant by a lot of traffic to the same destination? That means the destination is receiving, let's say, more packet, okay, that it can deal with. Okay, for instance, if you have the capability of receiving and dealing with 5 packets at the same time, okay, I can deal with 5 packets at the same time. But when I receive 7 or 10 packets, so that means it will create congestion in my side because I cannot deal with 10 packets at the same time. My capacity is limited to only to deal with 5 packets. Okay. Now, how do I know the other end can deal with 5 or 6 or 7, whatever the number of packets? Here comes the window size. You start, for instance, by sending 1 packet. Okay. You send 1 packet, it's 1 sign packet, and you wait to receive and sign AC key reply. Then you will send an AC key. Here the window size is 1. If I want to increase, for instance, if I want to send 2 packets at the same time, I will send 2 sign packet. Okay, sign packet and sign packet. Then I will wait. I should receive how many AC key, sign AC key, Shabab? Yes?
Sorry, Doctor, can you repeat?
How many sign ACK I should receive? If
Just
I send
one.
you, for instance, if I send you 2 sign packet, and I will say the window size is 2. The window size is 2. That means I will send you 2 sign in the 3-way handshake. I will send you 2 sign packet, and I will wait for how many? For 1 sign, I should receive 1 sign ACK packet. صح ولا لا?
Just one, yes, Doctor, one.
Now,
Yes.
if I send you, for instance, 2 sign packet, I will expect from you, if I will say that the window size is 2, I will expect that I will not send you the 3rd sign until I receive 2 ACK sign ACK packet. Okay, for each sign I have sent. I sent you 2 signs, I will expect to receive 2 sign ACK packet in order to proceed for the 3rd sign. This is the window size. The window size. If I say, for instance, window size is 10, it means that I will send you 10 sign packet and I will wait until I receive 10 corresponding sign ACK for each sign I have sent. Then I will proceed to the 11 or to the next batch of sign, which let's say 10 other packet and so on. This is the window size. Okay, Shabab? So this is how you can, let's say, which is known, if you have the capability of dealing with congestion window size to deal with the congestion, you should tell the other end that I do have a capability of reducing the flow or the number of packet I can send and so on. Okay, Shabab? These are, let's say, the techniques, as we mentioned, for the port scanning. Okay, in port scanning, okay, we do have TCP connect scan. Here, all those are part of the port scanning. Okay, there are ways of verifying whether some ports are open or closed and so on. We do have a sign scan, we do have a fin scan, Christmas scan, ACK scan, and null scan. All those are based on the flags. Okay, let's go have a look at the TCP connect scan. Okay, the TCP connect scan is known as, let's say, the full connection. This is the normal three-way handshake. You will send, if you do and specify this is a connect scan, that means you will send a sign packet, receive a sign ACK, then you will send an ACK. Okay, and if, for instance, the port is open, you will receive a sign ACK. If the port is closed, what you will receive? You will receive an RST ACK. Okay, if you do TCP connect scan, which is the full scan. Sometimes you do what is known as a TCP sign scan. Okay, you specify, we're going to see later some example. Okay, you do a sign scan. What is meant by sign scan? This is known as half open. What is meant by half open? That means you will send a sign ACK, you will send a sign packet, okay, a packet with the sign flag 1, okay, and normally in a normal communication you will receive a sign ACK. صح ولا لا شباب؟
صحيح.
طيب, when you receive a sign ACK, you will reply with an ACK, okay, but in this type of scan it is called as half open. What was the idea? Okay, it's just, for instance, if you receive a sign ACK from the other part, you deduct and you conclude that yes, the machine is open, the port is open, but you will not reply with an ACK. Okay, this is what it is called half open. It's like it's like you say to someone, Assalamu alaikum, he will say wa alaikum salam, and you stop, you don't talk, you don't finish the communication. This is half open, contrarily to the connect scans. Connect scan is the full three-way handshake. You send half, or in sign scan you will send a sign, you receive in case of, let's say, an open port, you will receive, if it is an open port, you will receive a sign ACK, but you will not reply. Okay, if it is closed, you will receive an RST ACK like here. This is known as a sign scan. Okay, a fine scan, here you try to detect whether a port, okay, to detect a port by just sending a request to close a communication that doesn't exist. You didn't establish that three-way handshake. You just crafted your packet and you put that fine flag 1, the other one 0, and you send that fine to the other end. Usually, as we mentioned, a fine is used where, or is used when you do have a communication. I do have communication, okay, between two devices, then I want to finish the communication. This is where you send a fine packet, okay. But however, in the fine scan, there was no communication at all, and you send the packet with the fine flag 1 to the other end, and you just verify whether you do have a response or not. Okay, try just to verify whether you do have a response. If someone will receive a file and he didn't involved, and he was not involved in communication, he will send you an RST. Okay, if you receive an RST, that means it is on. Okay, we do have a null scan, and all those shabab are based on the flag. Okay, a null scan, that means you will send a packet with no flags set. All those flags that we have seen, okay, these flags will be empty. No one empty. There is nothing to no information about those, let's say, flag. You don't set any flag. All, for instance, are 0. When we say set flag, That means we put 1 on that flag. That means we choose this type of packet. But in the null scan, okay, there was no flag chosen. Okay, all are 0. Okay, and the idea about the null scan is just to try to see, let's say, the type of result based on an open or a closed port. You have an ACK scan. That means you go to the flag ACK, you put 1. The other one, 0. Here, you try to verify whether there is a control list, for instance, filtering, let's say, communication, okay, or not, whether there is a firewall that will tell you, for instance, it will prevent, let's say, access to that port, and there is a firewall between the attacker and the target machine. The other type of scan, which is known as a Christmas scan like a Christmas tree, where you do have bulbs of light, different colors, different bulbs, and the same thing here. You do have a combination. For instance, you send a packet with the fine and PSH or push and urgent flag all set 1. Okay, that means you go to the flag FIN, put 1, to the PSH, put 1, to urgent, put 1, and the other 0. This type of, let's say, packet is known as a Christmas scan. Okay, and if you got, for instance, the port is closed, you will get an RST. So this is yes.
What's the idea, please, of the last scan, last time?
All those flags is to determine whether the port is open or closed, or there is a filtered port, or there is a, let's say, firewall preventing you from accessing the port. This is the idea about the port scanning.
No, I mean,
okay? You play with, because each type of packet will have corresponding reply. If it is open, you will receive this type of packet. If it is closed, you will receive this type of packet. And based on the response from the target, you can conclude whether the port is open, closed, or filtered.
Okay, thank
you. Sometimes, for instance, sometimes you use signed scan and you discover that the port is closed. So you will use another type of scan to verify, to make sure that, yes, it is really open. I will use another flag and see if I got the corresponding reply based on an open port, for instance, and so on.
Yes.
Okay, Shabab?
Okay.
Okay. In port scanning, as we mentioned, because there are different ports, those ports can be used by TCP service or by UDP ports. Also, you can have, because most of, let's say, pen testing will focus themselves on a TCP protocol. So here we need to also use a UDP port just to verify whether those ports are open or closed. Okay. Here for the countermeasure, okay, when to counter against port scanning, okay, you can deny all. You don't accept any types of packet that are based on those flags. You can have your proper design. When you do your network, you have to design your networks in such a way that you do have, let's say, some specific area where you do have filtering. You don't accept those types of packet. In some area, you can accept them. For instance, you can have your firewall. You set up your firewall and you test your firewall, because having firewall in place doesn't mean it is protecting you. Okay, you have to test it. You have, as a pen tester, just try to play around with those types of packet to see how the firewall will deal with such a type of packet. I will send, for instance, a Christmas tree packet and see how the firewall will react upon receiving such type of packet. Okay, do your port scanning as well. You try to do port scanning to see, as an outsider, like a pen tester, what are the ports open, which one are closed, and so on. And of course, you have to do security awareness training for your staff. Port, let's say, tools that can be used. There are many tools for scanning, port scanning. The main one, Shabab, that is mostly used is the Nmap one. Okay, you will find dedicated book about the Nmap one, which is considered as just like a Swiss knife, which does have, let's say, many options that can give you, let's say, whether to craft a packet, to send the different types of packet, to detect the operating system, the type of, let's say, services, versions. It is, let's say, a powerful tool that can be used to try to detect, let's say, to do the port scanning. Beside it, you can have what are known as the other one. Okay, these are the, before you go to the other one, for let's say the nmap. Okay, you have, for instance, these are the command that comes, or let's say switches that comes with the nmap command. For instance, if I want to send a sign scan to do sign scan, what I will do, I will use nmap with dash small s with big S. Okay, this is the service S. If I want to send a fine scan, I will use F and so on. For instance, Christmas, I will use an X and so on. So these are the type of, let's say, with the command that comes along or that goes along with nmap, in order just like you are crafting. It's like you are setting flags. Instead of going to the packet header and set flags, by using nmap, automatically, by specifying those switches or options, automatically it will set those corresponding flag and send the wanted packet to the target. Okay, this is an example. Now,
for these types, is any one of them are harder to cut on, like to detect? If someone is scanning my computer, for example, which type is the best if I don't want to be caught?
Let's say the worst one is the TCP scan, because it waits for the three-way handshake and can be detected. Okay, the other one, you can, for instance, the sign, the half open. Okay, the half open can be used. Okay, which is the sign scan is the less one, because you just probe the target and you don't respond. And sometimes when you probe the target, you will use, let's say, a fake IP address. Okay, you will not use, let's say, your proper IP address. You will use a fake IP address, and you just, sometimes you can use a sign scan by using a third party. Okay, like when you do, for instance, you do have a botnet and you can do it. I think this is, let's say, the less one that is detected. But we cannot say, let's say, exactly, because sometimes in order to send and verify and do port scanning, what you can do, you can, for instance, to evade being detected by a firewall, because now, let's say, in some, let's say, latest firewalls, okay, they are ready against any type of packet you send, specifically that are used for port scanning. But there are other approaches that you can use to evade the firewall or an IDS system, is by sending small packet. Okay, instead of having a big packet to be sent, I will divide it into chunks. Okay, small packets, and those small packets can evade being detected by a firewall or an IDS. Okay, Shabab?
Okay, shukran.
Okay, this is an example of nmap, which we are going to apply it. As I mentioned, you can, the result of an nmap, you can have an open port, closed port, or filter. When you see very filtered response, when you see a filtered message, that means there is some other type of filter, maybe an IDS or a firewall that is monitoring that port and preventing sending, let's say, those type of data. This is an example of a super scan tool that can be used also. Scan random. Okay, it can be also used to scan and send random or scan random IP addresses. Okay, when you know the range used, the network range used by that specific target, it can send a random one. The hacker's choice, another mapper. This is another type of tool that can be used. Okay, to find out the different services that does exist and that are, let's say, corresponding to a port or well-known port. Okay, I think we're going. Let's see if we're going to stop here. Yes, quickly, for the operating system fingerprinting is the way to try to deduct and discover the operating system, because you are working in, let's say, from the outside in a black box way. You don't know what are the different type of operating system that are running on that specific machine. So you do what is known as an operating system fingerprint. Okay, when we do operating system fingerprint, you try to determine the operating system. And sometimes when you get a result, Okay, it will say sometimes with nmap, for instance, you will say that it says probably the operating system is let's say Windows 7 with 95%. Okay, and Windows 10 with 85%. So it is using the fingerprint. It does have signature. It cannot tell you exactly that this is the 100% operating system running on the target machine. But what it can do, it can give you, let's say, a clue. It will say, based on the response that let's say utility or tool got, okay, it can say that these are the probable operating system running on that target machine. Okay, by extracting the information, by having or knowing the information, we say that we are doing operating system fingerprinting. Okay, because it looks like this type of operating system running on that machine, and by knowing the operating system, you can find out the corresponding vulnerabilities associated, if any, okay, exist within that operating system. So you will choose the, let's say, the correct exploit to exploit that vulnerability. Okay, Shabab? You can do, for instance, passive OS fingerprinting and active fingerprinting. So you can just try to get information from other devices to without, let's say, interacting directly, and you can get the information from other devices that will give you information about the type of operating system that is running in the other end. We do have also, okay, so mapping the network is to try to get an idea to draw your network, to know, for instance, exactly what are the different type of devices, what are the different types of operating system running on each device with each IP corresponding IP address, and this device is linked to this device. I do have here a server, I do have here Windows server, I do have here a mail exchange server, for instance. So you will drop the network. Okay, you will have a map of the network, so you can, based on that map of the network, base your next step towards attacking that device. And there are many the tools that can be used. These are a number of tools that can be used to draw or to do mapping of your network. Okay, or you can write it down by hand and draw by hand the different types of IP devices or devices with their corresponding IP that you have discovered during port scanning. Okay, once you receive the result, you will analyze the result. Okay, you will try, as I mentioned, you will see the different services running on that machines. Okay, try to find out the corresponding vulnerabilities for each service and search for potential exploit that can be used to attack the system. Okay, as we mentioned, you can use Google hacking database to search for such vulnerabilities, and there are other let's say space or database or vulnerabilities that can that are going to see in some practice that you can get from let's say for instance from Kali, that are, they do have it does have the database of exploit that you can use and exploit your target machine based on weaknesses. Okay. This is an example of Microsoft IIS vulnerabilities. So this is to conclude our chapter. Let's now switch on your machine, your Kali machine. Sorry. Can you hear me, Shabab? Because I got stuck here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Because sometimes when I don't hear you, so it's like I'm talking alone. So just I will stop the recording.